Hi, Aries, and welcome to your March 2024 horoscope. Good news. March is a little bit easier than January and February were. This is because the planets are finally moving past the conjunctions with Pluto, which we had a lot of those happening in February. However, March still has its own challenges, of course, and this is because a lot of the planets will be touching base with Uranus and Jupiter and Saturn. But let's get into what you can expect day by day in March. On March 3rd, Venus in your 11th house is squaring Uranus in your 2nd house. It's possible that throughout February and as well now into March that you have been spending a lot of time with your friends and making sure that you direct your attention and your energy there. However, on this day, that might make it difficult for you to keep a good overview on your financial situation. I really see this as you loving your friends and wanting to treat them to a beautiful, luxurious dinner. It is Venus that's involved after all. But you realize that that's actually draining your money and putting you in a difficult financial situation. On March 5th, Mars, who is also in your 11th house, is trining and sextiling the nodes, and the nodes, if you're not aware, are in your 1st and 7th house. I really see this day as whatever situation is happening with your friendship group being a really wonderful opportunity for you to practice setting boundaries. It could be as a remnant of what happened with your financial situation at the beginning of the month. And the reason why this is a beautiful opportunity to practice is because it's with your friend group. And your friend group understands you and gets you. So hopefully being able to set boundaries and to really speak what's on your mind with them will be received a lot easier than it might be with strangers or others that don't understand you. On March 9th, Mars in your 11th house squares Uranus in your 2nd house. So this is the way we started off the month, but we started it off with Venus squaring Uranus. Now, a couple of days later, Mars has basically moved to the position Venus was in. This is a more of an explosive day because we have the planets Mars and Uranus involved, and they can both be quite electrifying planets. Because it's a square, I really see this as a more challenging situation. And the way it could manifest is that all of the uncertainties that you've had around your finances are maybe leading you to want to take too much control in these friendship situations. Perhaps at the beginning of the month, it was about learning to speak your mind with your friends and telling them about your situation. But as you sort of have gained power and confidence in that, perhaps you're overdoing it in some way. Perhaps now you're really pinching every penny, or you are starting to affect your friendships because of how much you're trying to control the situation. Just a day later, on March 10th, there is a new moon in Pisces in your 12th house. Overall, in March, there's a lot of focus in your 12th house because we have a lot of planets in Pisces. A little bit later in the month, on the 20th, we'll start to slowly shift into your 1st house. So hopefully you'll start feeling a bit more energetic. But in the meantime, what you might see, especially in this first part of the month, is that you feel a lot more withdrawn or wanting to spend more time alone. And specifically for this new moon in Pisces, it's a new beginning for you for the way you spend time alone. And because Saturn is really close by this new moon, it could be a serious new start for you. So this could mean being really mature about setting time for you to spend alone. It could be literally scheduling blocks into your calendar that say, this is time I'm spending with myself. And this could really help you in the upcoming month to get in touch with your intuition and get in touch with using your feelings and moving from your feelings a little bit more than moving ahead from your logic or your thinking, for example. And this is a huge shift that you might feel just in general, moving away from all of that energy we had in Aquarius now to the energy in Pisces. And this new moon is actually a wonderful way to usher in both Venus and Mars entering Pisces. Just a day later, on March 11th, Venus enters Pisces, or your 12th house. And we really see you directing this energy of harmony, peace, and love more towards your inner landscape and not so much with your community of friends. And it doesn't mean that you're sort of completely abandoning them. Of course, our friends are an important part of who we are and how we go around and exist in the world. However, just for the upcoming month, it might feel like these practices that you have where you return back to yourself, you imbued them with a sense of beauty and luxury. We talked about Saturn helping add some maturity, some planning, and some responsibility in your alone times. And now that Venus is also entering your 12th house, it could be that these alone times include you lighting a bunch of candles, you purchasing a beautiful journal, and during those alone times, you write in that journal. You know, it could be about getting some really wonderfully smelling incense or a diffuser and incorporating that into your practices, the practices you do to return to yourself. On March 20th, we have the Sun entering Aries, or your first house. So as I already gave you a glimpse earlier, this could mean that you have a bit more energy and you're finally feeling like coming out of this cocoon of spending time alone and time with yourself, time with your thoughts and your feelings. And from the 20th onwards, you might slowly start to feel like, okay, it's time to sort of go back out into the world. And because you spent a couple of days withdrawing, really getting in touch with yourself, from the 20th onwards, it might also feel like the way you express yourself is more aligned. You spent this time to really get to know who you are and what you value and how you want to live your life. So from the 20th onwards, whatever you do, you know, the way you speak to others, the way you dress, the way you sort of style your hair, for example, might get a fresh start, and you might start feeling like aligning those a bit more to who you actually are, making sure that they really are coming from your own ideas rather than what others want from you. On the 21st of March, Venus finally catches up with Saturn, and they are both conjunct in your 12th house. Venus and Saturn can sometimes seem like two planets that are quite opposite from each other. Venus is about bringing peace and beauty and harmony, and Saturn can often say, life is crappy, let's get real. Let's not be delusional. So when we see both of these planets touch base for you in your space of inner exploration, and it might affect the way you spend time alone. Saturn might affect the things that you used to do to make your alone times beautiful. Remember, we talked about incense and candles and beautiful journals. And it might say, is all of this really needed? Is all of this the thing that really matters about our alone time? And it doesn't mean that it will get rid of all of those beautiful activities or beautiful parts of your internal practice. But it does mean that it will have you reconsider which parts you want to keep and which parts you want to let go of. And Saturn could also give you a different perspective on how you can bring harmony and peace into these introspective times. Perhaps instead of having physical beauty around you, it's about doing a meditation where you meditate on the beauty of life and the beauty of the relationships around you. So getting a little bit more serious and really thinking, what does it actually mean to focus on beauty and harmony, and how can I cultivate that in my life in a meaningful way? But also, Venus can have an impact on Saturn. We talked about Saturn in your 12th house, trying to make introspective time a routine, right? We're setting a schedule, we're being strict with it, we're really making it into a practice. But now that Venus is touching Saturn, it might help you soften that up a bit. Venus touching Saturn might make you realize that actually, maybe we can cultivate introspective time outside of these strict parameters that we've set for ourselves. Maybe being introspective means when we are having a conversation with our partner, stopping for a second, feeling like we're sort of looking at the situation from a bird's eye level, seeing ourselves in that situation and saying, okay, how do I want to act here? How do I want to show up? And Venus can help provide some of these more interesting and fun ways that you can continue to be introspective outside of those very strict parameters that you set for yourself. On March 23rd, Mars joins the Pisces party and enters your 12th house. The Venus and Saturn conjunction might have brought some really interesting insights about your introspective time. And now you feel quite driven and quite empowered to put it all into practice. And Mars entering your 12th house is really going to help with that. All of the actions that you might take from this day onwards could be really driven from your heart and your intuition. And it might really be encouraging you to continue this practice and to continue directing your energy towards it. On March 24th, Venus in your 12th house is sextiling Jupiter in your 2nd house. This could be quite a beautiful day because it's a beautiful aspect between two beautiful planets. And the way this could especially act out for you, because we have this 12th and the 2nd house in the mix, is that all of the work that you have been doing to get to know yourself, to come back to yourself, to reflect on who you are and where you're going, that all of that is starting to reflect positively with your finances. Perhaps it's helping you have a super clear vision of how you want to make money and how you want to take care of yourself in a financial way. Perhaps even because you're spending so much time reflecting and taking care of your internal world, you're able to show up in a beautiful way at work with so much more focus and productivity. And as a result, you also see some financial reward from it. On March 25th, we have a full moon in Libra in your 7th house. And because the south and north node are quite close by, they're still about 10 degrees away, so it's not extremely close, but they're still close enough for this to be considered a partial lunar eclipse. And once we do the April forecast, we'll get a little bit more into eclipse season. But just take note what happens on this day, because it could be something that continues to repeat throughout this eclipse season. And for you, especially Aries, it's about all of the ways that you're compromising in your relationships and how you can step into being more independent and being more selfish and being more of an individual. And we close off the month on March 28th with Venus in your 12th house, sextiling Uranus in your second house. All of that peace and love you've been directing towards your internal self, with all of the introspective practices that you've been taking this month, is having some sort of positive effect again on your finances and even your self-esteem. Often when we look at the second house, we tend to think of finances only, but as a matter of fact, the second house symbolizes this underlying level of safety and security. And of course, being taken care of materially, financially, can definitely contribute to that as well. But for you, I see this again as a positive development, that if you have done the work and taken some time alone in March, that you're wrapping off the month feeling a lot more self-confident in who you are. And perhaps this is also literally translating into you earning more money. So overall, Aries, I think I said it a billion times in this short forecast, but it's a good idea to spend some time alone in March. A good idea to pick up your practices if they fall into the wayside. And that could be anything for you. Meditation, it could be painting, it could be cooking, anything that gets you into the state of flow, and anything that you can do on your own. Any other practices like journaling, for example, that really gets you to come back to yourself and just reflect on who you are. And, starting the new season, starting the new astrological year, where do you want to go? I hope you enjoyed this forecast, Aries. I hope you enjoy March and you enjoy the introspective time. If you want to make sure that you catch the April forecast, then make sure you subscribe. I hope to see you again soon.